Nation Pod. This podcast that is. I'm
I'm
Maurice,
Therese.
and we are back for another episode. My brother,
Yo,
we didn't do last week.
we did not. Little rest.
Yeah. How was your week and
Oh,
weekend leading up to today?
man, I'm telling you, I said that stride I hit. Man, it's been going consistently. Work's been like we were pretty much done like around 4 o'clock yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But, stretch it out to the end of the day, of course.
Yeah.
But man, it's been great, man. It's been great. Got the rest last week. Didn't have any podcast at all last
Hey.
week, so just spent time with the little man. Me
I
and
ain't
the wife went on a date. We ain't done that in a while, so.
I ain't gonna lie, I did miss recording, but it was
Oh
good.
yeah,
It was good to get some rest.
Good reason, man. Reason. But how about yourself, bro?
Weekend, let's see, what did we do? We took the kids, we rode up the pigeon forge
Uh-huh.
for a day, just spent time with the kids. Yesterday we had to do stuff around the house.
Bet you. Bet.
Today was Monday.
Yes.
Well, today is Monday.
Struggle bus.
All day.
Oh, okay.
But I made it through. God is good.
He is.
That's all that
All the
matters.
time.
That's what matters. Listen, everybody, we back for another episode. Y'all know how we do. Our platform, our podcast, we're all about having conversation. Okay, we just want to have conversation that offers perspective. We do our best to come from a biblical worldview, but we keep it practical, we keep it real. We're still human. We still, as the Bible says, we're working out our own salvation. So we haven't gotten everything right, but we do want to have the conversation that yields that type of perspective for you all. Like we say all the time, you can agree, you can disagree. We just don't tolerate the disrespect.
Not
All
at
right.
all.
So as you already know, we're gonna be dropping this on Tuesday. The video premiere. Me and Therese will be down here in the comments, so please engage with us. And y'all already know we'll be right there with you. So, my brother, take it away.
All right. So today we have a wonderful special guest. This young man is you are young, right? I'm just kidding. But I'm messing with you. This young man is a singer-songwriter. He has 3 albums to date. He's a best-selling author of the book Still Living.
Hey,
Um, he's a mentor. He's an advocate for male sexual assault survivors, and I have the pleasure of calling him Uncle, Mr. Marcel Anderson. How you doing, Unc?
Oh man, I'm wonderful. Thank you guys for having me. Highest definition. Thank you guys for allowing me to come into the space. I count it as a privilege and an honor to be able to come into this platform and to be a part of a much needed conversation. So thank you guys for
man.
the work that you do and
Yes,
allow
sir.
me to be here today.
yes, sir.
Man, we're just letting the Lord use this as in any space that we can try to get into.
Yeah.
But so this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we brought you here to headline that conversation because you have a very interesting story. You're, like I said, you're an advocate, and so could you tell our listeners why you are an advocate for sexual assault?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you stated, April is National, International Sexual Assault Awareness and Child Abuse Prevention. Right.
Okay.
So research shows that 1 in 6 young men will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18.
Oh wow.
1 in 5 young ladies will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18. I've been an advocate for about 9 years. 9 years. Alongside of being an advocate, I'm also a survivor, right? So I have a heart and a passion for males who have gone through traumatic situations such as mine, being a male sexual assault survivor, and understanding the severity and the mental, the emotional, and the physical challenges that ones go through when they experience such a traumatic episode. So as a sexual assault survivor and advocate, this holds dear to my heart. And ever since me surviving my situation, I've took the initiative and took the charge and the mandate to be able to speak up and speak out for not only myself, but also for men who walk in silence every single day, because it's oftentimes not discussed consistently in this capacity of men who are oftentimes left out of the equation. But today, hopefully those who are listening will have the opportunity to be able to engage and be able to connect and be able to say, hey, men too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, So you said you are a survivor of it. You had your own experience with it. What was the kind of the emotional trauma, you know, going through that whole experience? How did that impact you, you know, emotionally? What was just that whole experience like? Especially, like you said, we don't talk about it a lot from the male perspective. So how did that particular experience impact you all the way around? Just talk to the people about that.
Yeah, great question. Before I answer that, I want to say two things. Anyone who's listening and they're triggered by things that I am saying, I want to read. Please go get the support that they need. They can go on nomore.org. They can go to 1and6.org. They can go to Sexual Assault Hotline and receive the support that they need and talk to someone, even at your local crisis center, because there may be things that we share that may trigger you if you have never got any help before. So I want to say first, make sure you get the help that you need. You don't have to walk alone in this process, right? And then two, to go back before answering that, to kind of share about my story a little bit. Being a male sexual assault survivor, I was held in a home invasion almost 9 years ago, where I was held blindfolded, held gunpoint, and held in a handcuff in a home invasion in a bathroom for about 2+ hours. And in that ordeal, I was held against my own will. And the robber told me two things, simply. I'm not going to talk too much about it because Teresh held my book up. You can go purchase it and learn all about my story. But in an overview, I was held gunpoint, blindfolded, handcuffed. He told me if I did everything he told me to do, no matter what happens to me, I'm going to do whatever I can to live. I don't care what anybody say. I know for me, I thank God for life, right? I thank God for life. I thank God for Jesus, who will give us an opportunity, right, to experience life after death. I thank God for this life that he's given me, and I wanted to live because I know I had a family and friends, and again, I just didn't know that I would be caught off guard at that moment. And in that moment, I realized that there may be some things that's going to happen to me that I'm not going to like, and it did happen. Minutes thereafter, he began to pull me to a back room and began to take the pole that was in one of his hands and brutalize me and began to call me out my name, things that I've never heard anyone say to me before. And he began to put out my pants to get very graphic, put out my pants and stuck the pole up my anal a couple times, maybe about 20-something times. I can't really count, but that's what it felt like. It felt like it was going on forever. And then immediately he did it again for another 20-something times to the point it caused an internal damage to my insides, right? I went into immediate surgery once I left that space because it had caused so much internal damage to the point where I had to go into immediate surgery. So much damage internally where I lived with a colostomy bag for about 6 months. Wow. Hospitalized for 5 weeks the first time. I was able to get it reversed, and so I don't live with it anymore. So I'm grateful for that. And again, emotionally, just listening to my case and my situation, sometimes I get teary-eyed talking about it, right? I get emotional by it because, again, as a man, you never thought you would be violated like that before, right? I never thought in a million years that I'll be violated and be taken advantage of, right? So emotionally, already I had to accept that this happened to me, regardless if I wanted to accept it. I had to realize that this is something that did happen to me, one, and then two, how do I work through this? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to have to deal with this. Yeah. If I don't deal with this thing is going to continuously deal with me. So two, the emotional aspect, I had to seek out professional counseling, something that we oftentimes do not seek out. Thank God for Jesus. Thank God for the pastor. Thank God for the leaders, the faith leaders. But professional counseling, someone who's clinically trained, who can really help diagnose what's going on with you mentally, right? And help you to continue to navigate through the things that's going up in your head. We just lost a rapper, for those who listen to rap, DMX. He had a song that said, "Y'all gonna make me lose my mind." Up in here. If I reference DMX, and that's how it felt. I felt like I was losing my mind because at the end of the day, if I may be real and candid, I was literally about to lose my mind because I'm a faith man. And a part of faith, the Bible says, "Vengeance is mine," said the Lord, "they will repay," right? I'm paraphrasing that. But I could not get revenge on them in the physical. So I had to go to the spiritual and begin to pray for them and fight a spiritual war. Because physically, if I may be real. I wanted to do harm, right?
yeah.
But I had to be very careful and mindful in how I did that because, again, the outcomes of doing harm to another person, right? We all understand what that is, right? So being
Yeah.
careful in how I use my words. But that's how I felt emotionally, right? And lamenting and crying and feeling the pain and agony of what I went through, right? I think oftentimes as men, when we go through something so damaging or traumatic, we don't know how to release our emotions. We feel like we have to be strong, right? Because what others are going to say about us, right? God did not make us that way. We have the ability to be able to be emotional and release our feelings and express how we feel. And in that moment, I was constantly crying alone. Some people didn't see me publicly crying, but alone I was crying, right? And walking on this thing alone, I said, I know I'm not the only one who was experiencing this. So that's when I began to reach out to 1 in 6, which is one of the largest organizations that talk about sexual violence against men, No More, RAIN. These are organizations that provide resources that many do not know about. And for me, I was able to plug into counseling. I sought counseling for 6+ years and still just re-entered back into counseling this year because I realized that there was still some additional levels of healing that I had to address, right? I knew that I was healed in certain aspects of my life, but he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquity, chastised for our peace upon him, and with his stripes we're healed, right? We're continually healing in different aspects of our life because God, he paid the price for us. But I realized that I thought, and I realized that, man, I'm healed, I'm good. I just tell everybody I'm healed. I was singing in church, I'm healed, I'm good. And when I leave, I realized there's some other demons and things I had to deal with. I said, that's another level of healing. For me, I believe there's a continuation of healing. You're continually healing when you've gone through something such as I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, no,
But
thank you, God, Lord.
I mean, that's also powerful too. I mean, it's so much just in what you just said. We could really just unpack. But one of the main things that really stood out, I think we have a society that I think now is starting to be talked about a little bit more. But the fact that you came out and said you as a man, you had to go out and seek that counseling. I think that's something we don't talk about a whole lot is the need for men to really open up. Why do you think, just from your experience, and just for us as men, we just kind of talk from growing up, suck it up, don't cry. We don't cry, all that. But now when you're going through that experience, you're screaming on the inside, but you've been told so long, hold up, you got to be strong. How is that battle of like, okay, I've been taught this, but now I'm hurting so bad, I need to get it out. And then what do you say to those who are going through their internal war?
Yeah. I mean, psychology would say in the first 5, stages of development is that you probably experienced this. Some probably experienced this in their upbringing, like when a female fall, right, and they start crying. What did the parents or the adults do? They start calling them, right, in the beginning. And if a young boy call, boy, get up. So immediately in that first 5 stages of their life, and first 7 stages of your life and development is where you really begin to program and have things concrete in your mind. You begin to develop in a sense of your identity of who you are. So in the beginning, right, we're already kind of introduced into this space of this norm of how we're supposed to be, right? How often or frequently do we treat males and females the same way when they experience some of the same thing, right? Even in this conversation, men are not treated the same as females, right? So we have so much catching up to do in this conversation. But I thank you guys, right, for taking the initiative to be able to allow me to be on this platform and so many others can be able to hear about what's going on, right? And I think, society do socially construct the norm that men supposed to be a certain way, right? This idea that this masculinity, you're supposed to be strong and you can't cry and you can't weep, you can't do that. You can't wear certain things. You can't wear your hair color, right, a certain way because you looked at it ostracized a certain way. And I lived like that for a long time. Right, for me, and this is where I am right now, we come from a creative God. Why can't we be creative? Because there's so many people outside of the church that needs us, right? We talk about the Great Commission. We're supposed to go out. When we go out, they have to look at us and see who we are. And we oftentimes are shielded and guarded and not want to talk a certain way. No good. Well, we weren't raised that way.
That's facts.
We began to continue to stay in this traditional way of teaching or building relationships. Instead of just building a relationship, we always preaching. Build a relationship with individuals and allow them to see your light. Let your light so shine, right? Upon men that may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. How is your light shining in the world? Right? So people can see you, right? And see the works that you're doing. What works are you putting out in the community, whether you've gone through something or not, right? Being able to be an example, be a model, right? Leading by example for who have created you and being a creative, right? And others will be able to be drawn to you. And they might even know, because a lot of people don't even know, like the things that I've gone through, they don't even know that I've gone through that unless I tell that to them. That's not my first thing I say. I'm a sexual assault survivor. I built a relationship with them. And then they get to know me, and I begin to share with them, like, man, well, I had no idea that I've gone through that. Bro, I've been going through that, man, myself, man. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in God, man. But just because somebody violated me. And the simple fact that I did not know you went through that and you are a Christian, I want to get to know the God that you serve, man. How did you get through that? And I say, hey, this is my book, and I just take them through a process, man. I don't force it on them.
Yeah.
I allow my life to be a representation. Not always perfect, like you said earlier, but I do my best to continue to plug into God's energy in the kingdom to allow me to be able to showcase who I am. Yep.
That's loaded, dog.
Yep.
Like, and I think I've shared this with Maurice before. I think I shared it with you Sunday. How
We talked about 50 million
we
things.
do talk about things. We do, but sometimes us as believers, you know, we tend to want to. When we go out into like evangelize, we want to go with this list of stuff that people can't do when you come to Christ.
Yeah.
And my position on that is that I mean, if you want to do that, by all means, but I think it does more harm than good.
Yeah.
Like, it's one, build a relationship. As you come into the knowledge, as a person, like, preach the gospel. Like, God is love. God did this, how he cares about you.
Yeah.
We let people know the goodness that God is. Yeah. And as they come into the knowledge of who he is, through a relationship of who God is, they start to, you know, reading your Bible, meditating and praying. God, the Holy Spirit starts to reveal things that God is displeased with. And then from that point, we're like, oh, you know what? If I truly love God, he doesn't like this, so I shouldn't like this at all either. Instead of going to people and be like, look, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. You know, if I come into a relationship like when me and Candace, same with you and Telma, if she came to you and said, look, here's a list of demands that you can't, certain things you can't do, you would be automatically turned off, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Exactly. And sometimes we do that with God. We come with this list of stuff instead of just building a relationship, and then he starts to reveal things. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, man, because I think somebody needed to hear that. But good Lord, I don't even know where I was gonna go with that, man. So do you would you say that how you were brought up? Because we know the way that you brought up really shaped how you, in the beginning phases of after the assault, really kind of shaped how you thought about yourself. Okay.
Yeah, it did. I thank God for my upbringing, right? For the good parts, that is.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the faith aspect played a major part of that, and also being family oriented, right? For the most part, because everyone who goes through these types of cases don't want to have faith or don't have family who support them or believe them.
Wow.
Because I know we was about to ride, boy.
Right.
We was ready to ride, man.
You understand what I'm saying? Like going through this, not being grounded in some type of faith, any type of faith, no matter who you serve, right? I'm just going to go there because, again, they'll be able to lean on something, not to lean on anything. You can fall for anything, right? So then, two, having family that support them when they're going through that they actually are walking alone, right? And I'm not against when we advocate, and I'm a part of this conversation saying, hey, you're not alone. But I have to say this, and I know some advocates may get me, but that's moments you do walk alone. You do walk alone. You hurt, you cry, you lament, and you're by yourself. So for me, I say, hey, I know you've walked alone, but now that I'm beside you, you have someone else to assist you and come beside you. I know you've had some long moments, right? I've had some good days. I've had some weary, right? I have some bad, like the song, like it says, you have some good days and bad days. You have some alone days. I mean, that's valid. That's true. But when I think about the goodness, right, and what he's done for me, my soul cries out, right? And some people don't think about the goodness. They think about the badness, and their soul cries out in hurt.
Yeah.
So
Because they're not in faith. They're not in anything. So when we talk to them and help them in that process, say, hey, yeah, I know you walked alone, but now you have assistance, you have support that you can plug into and help you navigate through that process. And because of my family and my faith, I was able to lean on that. I was able to plug in some things that allowed me to be able to move forward. I mean, the outlets that I plug in gave me the right energy in order for me to be able to fuel up and keep driving right forward, to keep moving forward. Because there's roadblocks and checkpoints that we all face, right, when we go through something like this. And I teach my guys in my mentoring program, when you get to a checkpoint or a roadblock, it doesn't mean a good thing. It's a good thing. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Doesn't mean it's a different. A roadblock simply means, catch this, that change is happening. Are you ready for the change? Do you have everything you need to get past that roadblock point in case? Have you ever been stopped or came to a roadblock before a police checkpoint, right? What are some of the things that they ask you for? Just tell
Identification.
me. Identification, what
proof
else?
of insurance.
Proof of insurance. Like I tell my guys, I say, when you struggling mentally, right, plug into the support that you need, like a counselor, right? When you're boxing with your mind, make sure you go to your ring, right? In your corner, you have the right people in your corner to help wipe you off, right? Give you the skills that you need, right? When you're in the ring of life, make sure you go back to your corner and you make sure you have the right skill set to move forward. If you know good and well that your engine light is on internally, you know there's some things, make sure you pull over and you get that thing checked out. There's many times when I roll, right, with my engine light on, right, or my tire was light was on. And this happened to me about 4 weeks ago. And I knew I needed to go get it checked out. Right on the highway. Boop, 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 boop. I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset because that was a warning sign that I ignored. We can't stop. We have to be mindful of the warning signs. Yeah. And I tell my guys, when you get to that checkpoint, if you got that warning sign, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Stop right there. Fix that warning sign, right? Acknowledge that warning sign and get it fixed. Right? Because the police is going to do one or two things, right? They're either going to give you a ticket, right? They're going to take you to jail if you don't have the things you need in order to move forward, right? I tell some of my guys, hey, if you got weed in your car, hey, get rid of it, right? Tell them that you have this. Acknowledge the things that's wrong with you. Acknowledge the things that you having problems with. I have been able to move forward because I've been acknowledging what's wrong with me. I've been acknowledging that I don't feel good. I ain't feeling good mentally or spiritually or socially. I need help.
It's wild.
I need help. And oftentimes we go through the process and these roadblocks and we keep pushing past these roadblocks and it's things that the cops not going to see. We're going to hide. But if we really acknowledge the things we need help with, how better and how improved will we be as individuals? And as the kingdom, we can be able to expand way more. And I'm talking about me first, because that's where I am right now. That's where I am right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And you said that because think about it. When you don't get the help that you need in those moments, you keep yourself locked up in a prison.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, you're not honest with yourself either.
That too.
And how often do men have these hard conversations and become vulnerable because the models that we have in our homes are men who have constantly, battling with themselves and don't want to address themselves. It's just cycles, right? The cycles could continue to evolve and pass down. But when we have young men like you guys raising up and telling the truth, even when it hurts, right? Even when it hurts, we will continue to help build a generation who is not afraid to be honest and to be truthful, right? And to tell the truth. And the truth is an acronym. I love acronyms. I'm probably going to give a couple of them. The truth simply means the real you talk here. The real you talk here. When are we going to talk real with ourselves and others?
Yeah.
The truth, you should know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yes.
Why are we afraid of the truth? It sets us free. It gives us freedom. It gives us a sense of awareness. It gives us a sense of acknowledgement that we are here and we're not by ourselves.
But, you know, that kind of goes back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago. Shout out to Apostle Ryan and Pastor Erica from Citygate.
Yeah.
You know, I gave the analogy of, you know, when they've had to get on me,
The surgeon.
like they're like a surgeon, where they had to give me that truth. That truth is like they had to take the scalpel, cut, take the infection out, and then they, because of the relationship that we have, they sold me up, loved me like it was nothing there. I think a lot of times when you talk, like you just talking about that truth, a lot of us are afraid of that cut that the truth gonna bring that first time, and we don't want to deal with that. It
hurts.
You know, one thing me and Teresa say all the time, quote from Elder Mark Moore: "Offense is the love language of this generation," and the truth is gonna offend you. So even if even if you just hold up a mirror to yourself, like, you know what, like, Reese, you got an attitude, you real snappy. You know, you gotta have that truth with yourself first, and then when somebody else come with you, be like, I tried to know it with myself, but now somebody else is telling me the same thing that I already knew. So I think a lot of times we don't want to deal with that truth because we can't really get past that initial cut.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
good. Wow.
So I mean, thank you for that, man.
No, yeah, for real. What are some of the myths that you've had to deal with in regards to male sexual assault?
Yeah.
That you was too weak to withstand that, right? You're supposed to be strong enough as a man, right? Emotionally, you should not cry, you know, when you're going through something like that, right? You as a man, again, I mean, that's the main one. Like, you're supposed to be strong enough in the idea that men can't go through that. One lady I spoke with, and I literally had to pull out my book and show her some statistics. She said, "Oh, men have never been sexually assaulted. Men can't. They just can't." I mean, she had conditioning in her mind, and when I began to lay the law of the land in this area, in this space, she was flabbergasted. She was like, "Wow, I apologize. I'm sorry." Right? It's just this idea that men don't go through these things, but the reality is that men go through this worse than females. It's just less likely to be reported because men are less likely to believe.
Wow.
Right? Men are less likely to report because they are less likely to believe, and they don't think they're going to be believed. Right? Because they're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be, this strong, dominant person, right? And the reality is when they're discussing this with someone, it's majority of the times men who have gone through sexual assault in women, it's someone that's closer to you. It's not strangers.
Oh, yeah.
It's people that know you.
Yeah.
Your cousins, your uncle, your father, right? Your sister. The list can go on and on.
Wow.
But we ignore that too. We don't want to have a conversation because we got to bring up some things.
Yeah.
We got to bring up some hard conversations that's going to have some hard responses, right? And repercussions. People will get locked up. People will be looked at different, right? And when will be the day when we begin to address real issues in our families? Because God created relationship and covenant for a reason. That's why he created us.
Yeah.
God wanted family.
Yes.
And when we begin to do family right, we can move in the right direction, and we can begin to lead a generation of people down the right path, right? In a man's heart, he plans his course, but it is the Lord who determines his steps. If our hearts begin to get right consistently in our families, right, I believe that there will be less heart surgery because our heart is already fixed.
Yeah.
So we have to begin to think differently. Because once we receive it, we think on it, and then when our heart gives it value. So we have to think differently so that our hearts can be changed as well.
Whew. Man. It's so many avenues I want to go down.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
It's so many avenues I want to go down for real.
So, what would be, quote unquote, your saving grace? We know God, Jesus, family. What is I know what it is, but what is something that you can pinpoint that has always kept you going? what would you say that saving grace is?
By default, God, of course, right?
By default.
By default, God, Jesus. Not by default, it's just who He is, right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
God.
Yes, sir.
Jesus is, just His saving grace, man. That's because of Him. I'm able to walk and talk and breathe and sing music. Music is my heartbeat.
There it is.
Right? Music is my heartbeat. It's a song I wrote on the Still Living album.
Oh, yeah.
Called I Survived. I'm so glad that I made it. After all the things I've been through now, I can see myself better, and that's why I'm alive. I'm stronger, I'm wiser, my days are getting brighter, I'm ready for life. Keep your eyes on the prize, then you will realize that the true gift of life is being alive. Don't you stop, keep on moving, in case you forgot that today is the day I survive. I survive. That's because the music that I create is from my survival story. That song came from me surviving and helping people to know that you survive, that you're breathing, you're living. There's so much more room for you to grow and to progress, and you have purpose to live, and it's because of music. It's my heartbeat. I've written so many songs. I have thousands of songs that I've written in my spirit, in my heart, and on paper, right? And I've put them down on recordings, and I created those songs, and because of that, I've been able to touch so many lives. Just even the other day, I get inspired by people sending me a text message and telling me how my music have inspired them. One of my friend guys, he texted me and said, "Hey, man, my wife had a miscarriage, and your song, Closer, saved her from losing her mind." Because the song Closer says, all I need is a closer walk with Jesus. Jesus is all I need. And you never know that your pain can turn into a victorious testimony, not only for you, but for someone else. And I just knew that I had to respond to the call that God had mandated on my life, right? When we respond to our challenges, Eric Ayers, who's a psychoanalyst, is 8 stages of development. It's the 5th stage. We talk about identity versus identity confusion. And he says is when you experience a challenge in your life, when you experience a catastrophe, it is not the end of the day, right? That a challenge, a catastrophe can be a turning point, but this is the caveat. He said, how you respond to your situations can either dictate or determine your final destination. So the reality is, how are we responding to the things that we go through? It was because of my response that got me here. I could have responded differently, but I chose differently. How do we choose to respond? It's all about our response. Our response dictates, determine where we end up. So you wonder why people ain't moving where they are, because they responding the wrong way. They're not responding the right way. They're responding in the wrong direction. And it's because of that, man, I give credit to my godly response. All of my responses have not been godly. All of my responses have not been in the will. But I've been consistently praying and constantly leaning back on that cross. Thank God for that cross, because if it wasn't for him in that thing, man, I'll tell you, my responses would have been abnormal. But thank God that I've had some normal responses that got me to here. I'm not supposed to be standing, talking to you guys, sitting, listening to myself talk, but it's because of the grace of God. Yeah. So if I get emotional, if I lament, keep talking, it's just a part of this moment.
This is a safe space too, man, my brother.
real safe space.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and you kind of already alluded to it throughout the whole conversation. Throughout this whole thing, how did it impact your relationship with God? Because I think a lot of people, sometimes we don't understand a relationship. You have your ups, you have your downs, your ins, your outs, your valley moments. How has that deepened or impacted your relationship with God? Like, did you see it from a different light? Did you get mad at him? Did you really tell people how a relationship with God really is, and going through an ordeal like that, and how was your personal relationship impacted by this whole experience?
To piggyback off that, because a lot of times we don't want to give people the real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what turns people off from Christ. When we can't be, I'm not saying be like when I say real, I'm not just saying like that to like just to be vulgar or just to be quote unquote worldly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying being really in tune to how you really feel and expressing that in a godly manner.
Yeah.
Sometimes we express it in a ungodly manner.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. Really good question. I've struggled many nights with myself, right, and with God. What I mean by that is understanding the why. I know oftentimes, we're taught not to question God or ask Him why. I'm sorry, I've asked those questions. Why me, right? In doing that, I also honored God, right? I also respected God in asking those questions, right? Why wouldn't a big God, right, allow us to ask small questions? Why would a big God allow us to come small to His throne? My God. If He's that big, why don't we come with big questions? Why do we small God in our conversations and don't think that He will give us what we need? If we serve a big God and we belittle God, and when we hurt and when we go through things, it was because of Christ and me being real with God, saying, God, like Jesus, He did not want to go what He went through.
Yeah.
I said, God, if it's your will, I would take this pain, I would take this situation, and I would use it for your glory. And that was my words. But in the midst of that, I didn't know that I was going to miss God and not hear God consistently, because He didn't always speak, or I didn't always listen. Or He was speaking, I just wasn't listening, and I started doing things my way. I wrote books, I wrote songs, but I was still struggling, right, on the why factor. I'm thinking things is just going to go away, but I still had to deal with it. That's why we got to come to Him every single day, even when you're not perfect, and come with big questions, because we serve a big God who wants us to come to the throne of grace and mercy every single day. If we have heavy hearts and we're burdened, He said He will give us rest. So we just got to come. We don't come real. And God said, I don't know that language, man. You're not talking to me real. I need you to be real with me, and I'll give you the real, because I already have it planned for you. I already know the plans for you, to give you hope in the future and prosper you. He already has it laid out for us before the foundations of this earth. He already told us who we were in our mother's womb. So why are we tiptoeing to God with our problems? But we tell the person in front of us, a counselor, everything, thinking that they're going to solve it. We got to tell that person and tell God even the more, and trusting Him with all of our heart.
Yeah.
And lean not until our understanding all our ways and acknowledge Him. He will direct our path. And going back to the question, yes, I asked God why. And just like Job, that was a moment where Job was emotional. That's a great example, an illustration of being emotional, because he lost everything. And the interesting thing about that in Job chapter 2, verse 3, right there in that space, he kneeled down, stripped his robe, and scraped his head, and he began to worship God. When is it when we begin to show our real emotions, and after showing our emotions, and get back to our original identity and begin to worship God? God said, express your real self, but don't stop worshiping me. Tell me how you feel, but you still got to worship me. You still got to praise me, because guess what? I'm going to give you back what you lost.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you double for your trouble. And that's what we see and experience of Job. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to to really go through Scripture. That's not my intention. My goal is to answer the questions.
You're fine.
But when I think about the question, when I think about my path and my journey, it was not easy. It was hard. I wanted to give up. I wanted to throw in the towel, right? I wanted to check myself into a straitjacket community. right? Because again, I had to go through that alone because the phone calls stopped happening. The money stopped happening. I had to work. I had to get back into society and work, right? I had to get back out there and do things for myself when I didn't want to, right? So, for me, I'm just grateful for God's grace and His mercy. I'm literally telling the truth because it's not easy, but it takes work, right? And it's a journey to be able to get to that end goal. And I pray every day that people who walk in this alone, that they continue to get the support they need, to get the resources they need, and they plug into to Jesus trying, because I'm telling you, he's real.
Taste and see.
Yeah.
Lord is good.
Yeah.
This is the man.
I told you I was gonna slide one down.
That's all good, man.
Told you.
We want this to be a safe place.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna slide one down.
Also, we got to realize too that Jacob wrestled with God.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that he wrestled with God because God was his enemy. It was because God was the prize. Man, good Lord. So, us as the body of Christ, how do you, in what ways do you think that we can share in the role of being, bringing awareness and support to sexual assault survivors?
Yeah, I think one, connecting to the people who do the work. Stop feeling like you have all the answers, because you don't.
Thank you.
You don't have all the answers, especially in this space, especially if you haven't gone through it. Now, if you're a ministry, you have a heartbeat for this, and you put things in place for this type of work, yes, do the work. Especially if you have someone in your ministry who's educated, right, and trained in this space, right? We talk about training and educating our leaders. Train someone in your body to go learn about sexual assault survivors or advocacy work or domestic violence, right? If you don't want to bring someone in that you may not trust, that's fine. But send someone out to a training, right? And allow them to be certified. Bring that information back and have that as a part of the ministry. Because 9 out of 10, someone in your ministry have experienced the same thing. 1 in 6, look at the numbers again. 1 in 5, right? So again, how do we, one, put some level of training and some type of advocacy or some type of program that when someone comes to you, you're not looking at them sideways like, I don't know what to do. You're going to be caught off guard and be misplaced. Right? And they're going to go back to their own routine, and no matter what that, no telling what that is. Right? It could be drugs, alcohol use, sexual exploitation. It could be anything, right? Things that individuals go through. Talking about addictions, right? So again, how do we, one, create a space where we have someone who's in our ministries that's advocating for individuals who are going through things like me, and then 2, not telling everybody their stuff and their mess. This is confidential. When you're in this work, right? A lot of these conversations and the things that discuss, it has to be confidential. You signed up for that, right? You have a MOU, right? Of understanding, like there's an agreement that I'm not going to tell everybody about this. We're going to take it to God in prayer, and that's it, right? And I think oftentimes we are discussing conversations that that's not qualified for people's ears.
Yeah, man.
That's not qualified for people to handle, because they mishandle and you put people back versus putting them forward. I've seen that. There's conversations or individuals who come to me where I could not handle, even with me being trained as a behavioral specialist, undergrad in psychology, trained in sexual assault. There's certain conversations, certain things I could not handle. I have a resource of people, right, who I can connect to and say, hey, I believe this person would be for you, because I can like really move them in the wrong direction, right? Mishandling them, and next thing you know, I put them backwards versus forward. So I think, too, make sure you be mindful of the conversation you have, and having additional resources of people who's trained in that area, right? Stop being so prideful. I'm the same way. I had to stop being prideful. Like, I don't know everything. People always tell me, Marcel, you don't know everything. And that was for many reasons, because I'm guarding myself, right, to protect myself, right? But at the same time, you don't know everything, and recognize that, hey, there's people that can help serve the people that you serve. Just know how to delegate, right, properly, and I guarantee you, you can move in that direction. And then 3, spiritually connect with them, and make contribution to them in terms of your work, what you add value to, right? What you add value to, and walking that boldly and confidently, right? In ministry, and they can see the truth and the truth in you.
Awesome.
Whew. You got anything else, man? Good Lord.
Yeah. Nah, I think it'll take us into a whole
Yeah,
another.
it definitely will.
We gotta have him back on for another.
We will. So, the I want you let's talk about well briefly just you said you have a mentor program, Accelerated Men. So talk on that. Let the people know what that is. See how they can plug into that.
Yeah, Accelerating Men. It is a community faith-based nonprofit 501c3 mentoring program where we educate, train, and cultivate African American young men ages 10 through 18 to simply accelerate in their God-given identity. We do that through group mentoring, through parenting classes, through social interventions, through scholarship, through college touring, through educational classes, tutoring, etc. We just help young men to understand who they are in God, teaching themselves esteem awareness, character development, leadership development, internal discovery, character building, building up who they are, building their identity before operating in their purpose, right? All of our young men within our program is a uniform-based program, so they have to learn decrees and declare those decrees and different mottos, etc. So 85% of our young men right now during the pandemic is excelling in, academically with A's and B's right now. So we're grateful to be able to provide still virtual workshops, even during the pandemic, consistently for both our young men and parents. So in order for any young man to participate in our program, the parents have to attend a monthly workshop. It's not an option for the parents, right? So they can decide before getting in if they want to make that commitment, right? It's not a place where you drop off your son and then you get to go do what you want to do. But the good thing about it, a part of our program, is that some of our young men, parents are single mothers, so the absence of the father is very prevalent. So 85%, probably 65% of our parents are single mothers, right? So a part of our program, parents happen to be there, right? Not grandparents, not aunts and uncles. They're not required to be there. Only the father or the mother, even if they're not together. So we've had maybe about 35% of our fathers who were absent in the lives of the sons re-enter because someone had to be present. So now the Bridge Parent Advocacy Program have bridged the gap between the father and the son. A lot of fathers look at us as mentoring programs that we are competing. Now I said, sir, no, we're here to come alongside you, that we can't compete with you. If we're collectively coming together to work towards a common goal, it can work, right? So again, we have, created that space to be able to move forward and close that gap of not only bridging that gap between the parent and the child, but also the father and the child, right? Because we see that absence quite a bit. And one of the reasons why I started Accelerating Men, just knowing that the absence of the father is very prevalent, but also knowing that young men can have a way of guidance and leadership and mentorship and find a path that would be spiritual, right? As a faith-based mentoring program, we have spiritual formation where all of our young men, they have to have a spiritual curriculum that they have to follow in God as well. So they're building themselves up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So also talk about your 5K. This is to bring awareness to sexual assault awareness. And you have it every April.
Every April, sometime in April, every April. Before I go to the 5K, we have a panel discussion that's coming up as well. It's called Men Too, Addressing Sexual Violence Against Men. What are the steps to overcome sexual abuse? We have 3 phenomenal guest panelists. I know you talked about Ryan McGimsey, Apostle Ryan McGimsey. He's going to be on as a Christian clinical counselor. We have Brentley Wright, who's talking about the financial challenges that many survivors go through post going through their experiences.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times people don't know that the resources that are available, victim compensation, insurance, just different things you can plug into financially that can help you, that allow you to don't have to work for a year and get funded so you can rest your mental. A lot of
Wow.
people rush back into spaces and environments that they're not ready for. And people say, "What's wrong with you?" And they don't say nothing wrong with me, and they keep pressuring, they triggering that person, and that's what different things happen.
Wow.
Because they're not financially stable and they're trying to work. They don't want to work. People don't want to go back.
Right.
Let me say people. I know I didn't. And I've talked to several other survivors not wanting to get back into society so fast. We're forced back into society and don't have the proper time to heal.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to talk about the financial support and the resources that are available for survivors and victims like myself. My hospital bills were $100,000 at Duke Hospital, if you know about Duke.
Wow.
I didn't pay nothing because of the resources that I tapped into because of the local victims compensation organization came to my hospital room and provided me the resources and say, hey, just because you're a male and we have money allotted for this, people don't know it's just sitting there. We're going to pay for all of that outside of what insurance paid. They covered the rest. I paid for
Wow.
copay and all the other stuff, and I got reimbursed for other things as well.
Wow.
And also, as other funding that I didn't know I was approved of, that I'm now getting ready to get a check because of that.
Wow.
Because I flooded what we don't know, what we perish by the lack of knowledge.
Yeah, we do.
Right? What if we have someone like that on our team in the church? When you go through that, you can get the support. The church don't have to raise up money. It's already there. Because the government has it.
We just don't need to tap
You just don't
into
tap into it.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing he's going to talk about. And then Dr. David Lisak, he is the leading forensic science for the U.S., who does all of the forensic science and psychological counseling for major organizations, the U.S. Army, large organizations that speak out against sexual violence.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then the 5K on April the 24th, Spartanburg, Mary Black Rail Trail at 9 a.m. You definitely want to be there. If you have a team that you want to register, it's only $15 for 10 people or more. It comes with a shirt, $20 for individuals. But this is our 6th annual 5K, Still Living 5K, derives from my book. I guarantee you want to be just a friend, family environment. We have music, vendors. Of course, due to the pandemic, everything is social distance. But we're still going to be out there and want people to come and be a part of this 5K this year.
Awesome.
Yeah. Bring awareness.
Mask are required, please. Mask are
Yeah,
required.
they are required. Yeah. You see that on the flyer, too.
But also, plug your book, man. Plug your book and how we're able to get it.
My first book is on my website, Marcel Anderson music.com, or you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, any social media platform to purchase that book. You want to get that book so you can catch up because I'm getting ready to release part 2 of that this year. I've been waiting.
Awesome.
The last 3-year part 2 is called Road to Recovery. After you survived a catastrophic experience, what does the road to recovery experience look like?
Yeah.
So be on the lookout for that.
And get that album too.
Yep.
It's nice. I love it. I was listening to it on the way here actually.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
But
So, word association.
word association?
All right, we're gonna give you a couple of
5 words.
words or phrases. First thing come to your mind. Marcel.
Strong.
Accelerated men's.
Identity.
Table talk.
Continuous conversation that will never stop.
Love it. Music.
My heartbeat.
High definition.
There's no place you can't go.
Wow. Listen.
Any final words of encouragement for those who may have been victims and are afraid to speak out?
Yeah, those who have been victims and now survivors, just know that you're not alone. God is with you. We're here with you. There's places to plug into. There's places to go that will help and support you in this process and this journey. Just continue to know that they're there. Plug into them consistently. Because if you consistently plug into them, you can get consistent results.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Hey. Listen. This is another episode of High Definition
But
Podcast.
first off, hold up.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, young man. I'm glad you got to come and chill with us, man.
Thank you for having this conversation. I'm pretty sure
Yes.
many will look forward to
Yes.
hearing this. That they're gonna need it.
Yeah.
So
Let's keep the conversation going.
of
Plug your
course.
social media.
Yeah, Marcel Anderson 1 on Instagram, Marcel Anderson on Facebook, Marcel Anderson Music .com on my website, and then acceleratedmen.org, which is my nonprofit
Got you.
organization. So please follow me. Love to follow you back.
This is another episode of High Definition Podcast. I'm Maurice.
I'm Therese
And remember to live life
from the highest definition.